Hello everyone, welcome to chapter 181 on my RLDR Custom Creations YouTube channel. It is the weekly edition and I'm standing behind one of my student lathes. So there's a good chance in this chapter that I'm going to be talking about these. So if you'd like to see what my student lathes look like, all you need to do is stay tuned. Turning again with students. Right now I have a group of grade 6 students on Tuesday and a group of grade 7s and 8s on Wednesday. And last week was the first week we turned, the week before we did the safety stuff and the necessary paperwork to do all this. And yeah, we got turning last week and I learned a lot right away. The things that I needed to do a little differently, but luckily I had that all accommodated. I just didn't have it all set right. But anyway, we spent the day turning, or spent last week turning, and had a very, very good week. So anyway, what I thought I'd do today is, if you're working with students, especially young ones, like grade 6, 7, and 8, there's a few things that you need to have for your lathe setup for them to be successful. And so what I thought I'd do today, since I've been mucking around with my lathes today anyway, I thought I'd go through and show you how I set up these lathes and what I put in the bin for each lathe as well, because that's important too, depending on what we do. We usually turn between centers and bowls and variations of those projects, which basically is what turning is. So I thought I would go through that with you today. So eventually I'm going to pick up my handheld and I'm going to show you around here, but we're going to start with the lathe itself. Now I have a fleet of student lathes. I have 8 of them. Yeah, don't ask me why, but I do. I basically have, what do I have? 5 of these Delta Shopmaster MIDI lathes, which I really like, by the way. And I have 3 jets, the equivalent jet. I forget the number of it, but they're basically the same as this lathe. The only difference really between the jet and the Delta is the Delta has its main switch up here and the jets is out over here. But they're good lathes. The jets are really nice little lathes as well. The one thing I like about this style of lathe, like this first generation Delta MIDI, is it's not variable speed. It's a step pulley lathe. Now, most people would prefer a variable speed lathe, and I would agree with that when it's your lathe and you're the one operating it. However, if I've got students operating it, and I guarantee this would happen if I had a variable speed for each student lathe, as soon as I turn my back, I'd have somebody turning at 3,500 RPM right away. And you know, when you've got lots of people in here, the shop is a little bit tight. You don't want pieces flying around or chips flying all over the place. This way, I set the speeds. The kids don't even know how, and I do that on purpose because I want to be able to control that aspect of their turning. So, and I think when you're a teacher, especially when dealing with young students, control is the word that you want to make sure you understand really well, because it is really important. So I've done a few things to my lathes, hopefully you can still see me here, to try to ensure student success. For one thing, we use a drive center with no teeth. It's perfectly smooth. Is it one or Nova, I think, sells what's called a steb center, and One-Way sells safe drive. Now these aren't those, because when I'm outfitting 8 lathes, I can't afford to do that. This was a center that Busy Bee used to sell. I don't think they sell it anymore, but it's just smooth all the way around. And I usually demonstrate this to students. I'll just say take the spindle roughing gouge and just give it a quick jab in when the piece is still square and get the piece to stop and show them that the lathe keeps going. It's slipping here or it's slipping on the belt, but you know, they're not gonna have the tool ripped out of their hands and thrown across the shop. Young students need to be sure that you've taken care of everything, that they can turn safely. That's what they expect from you as an instructor. So anyway, the Safe Center, some important lathe maintenance things. For example, making sure that your tool rests are nice and smooth. Because if you have a tool rest that has nicks and bumps in it, that's going to transfer into their turning and make them less confident, because they'll have to push and then pull back and push and pull back. And that isn't good. So these need to be nice and smooth. And I think I should take this one either to the file or, okay, I cheat a little bit. I use my edge sander too. But make sure you don't do that with dust collection going, because you may have a collector fire. So anyway, and the live center is pretty standard. I try to do regular maintenance on these things. I stock the bearings at both ends here. And I believe, if I remember correctly, the Jet and the Delta use the same size bearings. So I have a bunch of spares here, so if I hear a bearing going, I can change it right away. Motor, half-horse motor is really nice for a kid-level lathe. It's a beautiful power plant for that. So yeah, and you can turn about 14 inches between centers, which is long enough. And a longer tool rest might be nice, but in a way I kind of like this for teaching, because it teaches kids that to stay on the rest when they're turning and slide it over and lock it again. So it's repetition that makes them more aware of what they're doing. And I think that's a good thing. I put a light on all these lathes. I don't have this plugged in right now. And students would all be wearing safety glasses. And you saw I built that massively elaborate safety glass holder in my last video. Yeah, but a practical project for practical equipment. The other thing that my turners wear when they're turning is a face shield. They actually wear both. So basically what I'm doing here, this needs to be cleaned obviously, but so this is why the reason they wear both is often when they're turning, they'll take a break or they'll check something, they'll flip their face shield up, and then they'll forget to put it down. While their eyes are still protected, and as soon as I notice it, I'll go over there and tell them, or I'll help them put their shield down. But even when they're just walking around the shop, your eyes are protected, because with other people in the shop, there's usually things going on. So this way their eyes are protected the whole time. Now, excuse me, boy, my feet get sore doing this. Okay. We had an issue this last week, and it was actually quite funny. You'll notice I'm on my hands or almost on my hands and knees beside this lathe, and on my knees I could still turn quite comfortably at this lathe. Well, this is the right height for one of my students. Like I'm kid you not, he's this big. Like, and the first day they were in here, I hadn't set any heights because I thought, okay, it's going to be close. And I kid you not, that poor little guy, he's standing at his lathe and he's turning like this. So then I tipped all these over, and I have adjustable legs on all of my lathes. And I'm going to take the camera, take it off the tripod, and I'm going to show you the adjustments on the lathe legs that I have. All right, well, there's a close-up of the leg that I use to hold my lathe up. And these these legs are old school desk legs. When I was setting up all these lathes, the school that I was working for was in the process of getting rid of a bunch of desks. And these desks weren't that old, but they were junk from the beginning. I pulled these out of the dumpster, and most of the desk wouldn't survive the toss into the dumpster. The table would come off and the screws would pull out. They were really not very good desks. So I asked if I could grab a few. So I took 8 pairs of legs and made these stands. Now there's a 3/16 Allen bolt here that goes into these adjustable holes, and they're about 1 inch apart. So this has worked exceptionally well. And what it allowed me to do last day is take this lathe here and drop it right down. So this is very close to the ground. And this allowed that shorter student, well, they're only in grade 6 and they're boys in grade 6, so they're not all that tall yet. They'll get there, but they're not there yet. So this is one of my grade 6 boys lathe that they're turning at. And this one over here is one of the grade 8 girls that's here turning. And you can see her lathe is considerably taller. So that is important. Having the lathe at the right height for the student that's turning is critically important. So if you're working with students, having some way to adjust the height of the lathe is important. I had one adult here last year that my tallest lathe wasn't enough for them, and we had to put, I think we put some 3-inch lumber underneath the lathe to get it to the right height. But anyway, that's something that's really important, and it did catch me off guard. I knew better, but yeah, it was a bit of a challenge. So anyway, I'm going to put you back on the tripod, and then I'm going to explain a few more things. Well, I hope that me having the camera moving you around those lathes a bit helped you get an understanding of the adjustability that I've managed to create in my student lathes. The other thing that, staying on the safety theme, I plug all my lathes, when we're turning in the shop here, all my lathes are plugged into one of these or something similar. I have a different style of this device now. This basically gets your lathe to act like it's protected by a mag start, okay? I'm not good with electrical equipment. I'm really not sure how to explain this, but maybe by what it does is most important. So this is plugged in, the lathe is plugged in here. If we have a power outage in the shop, the lathe, when the power comes back on, the lathe will not automatically start. You have to go to this and press this in and the switch, okay? So this way, the lathe cannot start up. It just, when the power comes back on. You need to press a switch in order to get it to come back on, which is exactly what you want. So there's a plug-in version of this now without the cord. I've had one of those. I think I ordered 1 or 2 more last year and I didn't get them, but I'm going to do that again this year. I like those because they're just a little more compact than this, that's all. So we'll put that there. The next thing that I did, my goal was to make it so that these lathes could be moved around. I knew that they wouldn't be set up at the same place all the time, so I needed to make a cabinet for each lathe to put everything in that I wanted to store in that lathe, and then I can move them around. As long as this stays closed, nothing falls out, and I have everything in there when I need it. My only regret with this is that I didn't build this a little taller. And I actually could have gone about another 2.5 inches and it still would have worked and it would have made all the difference. Right now the crisis or the problem I have is I can't fit the face shield in here properly with it together. So to fix that problem, I just take the face shield off and store it separately. It's a bit of a problem, but it works. So maybe what I'll do now is I'm going to put everything in it that I store in it, and you'll get to see all that. So, and all this material, you know, if you wonder why turning classes cost some money, this is one lathe that I have that I actually bought and paid for out of my own money, my pocket. And all the tools in here as well are things that I bought. So after we're done this, take this, what you figure I spent in here, and times that by 8. So there's a sizable investment I've made in this. And that's why when you're teaching classes, it is important that you get some money out of that class to recoup your investment. And I don't know if I'm going to recoup my investment purely, you know, with cash. I've got some other benefits out of owning these lathes, so, you know, I'm happy with the price I came up with to charge kids for this class. I think it's fair, and that's all I can do. But anyway, so, okay, I got an octopus outlet in here kind of thing. A lathe wrench. I do actually have a pair of safety glasses in each lathe. The original spur drive. And I was having trouble getting the live centers out, so I just made a bar that fits in there. Okay, then, when we turn bowls, we need a chuck. Now, these aren't the best chucks, but they're the best I could afford. They work. Are they the best? No, but they work. Okay, so that's that. And I put them in a little bucket like this to keep it all together, and it lives right there. Okay, then we've got a bunch of stuff that I made. Oh yeah, and we put a pencil in every lathe as well. But a few things that I made. Every lathe needs a mallet. Okay, yes, we marbled the handle because we had nothing to marble that day. So it's a little fancy, but it's kind of cool. Oh, and notice, everything's numbered. So this is lathe number 5. Everything that goes into this lathe has a 5 on it. If it has a 6 on it, it's in the wrong place. Okay, so the mallet. A bowl gauge. Okay, this is just 3/8 bolt, 3/8/16 I think, thread, and a piece of dowel, and it goes like this, and you lock it, and then you can see where the bottom of your bowl should be and mark it, okay? I don't think we've had one student go through the bottom of a bowl when I've been using this. This was cheap to build and it works really well. A chuck gauge. So, okay, if it goes on, that's good. But if it doesn't go on there, it's also good. So this would be too small. And if it's, yeah, and this determines the upper or the biggest dimension. So if it fits between, it's good. That is another thing that's taken the guesswork out of this for students. Okay, they don't have to estimate. A turning form. Now this, everybody asks what this is because nobody seems to know. Excuse me, I just got to move everything over. So this would go in the chuck like this. And your bowl goes like this. The center goes in like that. And then you can turn the foot off of your bowl without a vacuum chuck, okay? This is a cheap way to do it. This is just MDF that I glued together and put a piece on to grab, so it would grab the chuck, and put a little bit of neoprene on it, and they work really well. I've seen others like it, but I really like that idea, and that thing works really well. Every lathe has a brush. It's important to be able to sweep the lathes off. With students in the shop, I do not clean with compressed air. Okay, I will when they're gone, but I don't set that example when they're around. They need to learn to clean with a brush. And when they're older and on their own, if they clean with compressed air, well, that's up to them. Okay, you can see this is filling up. The original Captain Eddie self-powered sander. These things are cool. And what I like it for kids, when they're working with bowls, it gets their hand away from everything, especially, and usually I'm not trying to stereotype here, but often it's young girls that are a little bit intimidated by this whole process. And this way they feel that they have control and their hand's a little further away. So I think I made about 10 of these, and I made a number of these. I think I have one for every one. And there's round magnets in the bottom here, and grips it really nice. Captain Eddie, this is an amazing idea. I love it. Okay, every lathe has a ruler. That's important because we find center that way. Yeah, I could get a jig for that, but you got to teach a little bit of math too, which is good. So the ruler goes in there. Okay, pencil. Yeah, I only need one pencil. We'll throw that in there. Okay, then tools. The first tool I introduce my students to is a spindle roughing gouge. I like this tool, and it's one of those tools that allows students to have a lot of success right away. After one day with this tool, I would almost say that my students are experts with it. They run it nice and smooth. They can go both ways. I encourage some left-hand turning as well if they're right-handed. Learning how to use that opposite, the opposite hand. I think that's important. And this spindle roughing gouge is a great tool to learn on. So that's our first tool we use, or the first 3 tools, I guess, that we use. Yeah, see, I could have made this a little bigger. The next tool is just a 3/8 spindle gouge. Okay, these tools, they're not exactly the highest quality. I have many tools in here that I ordered from Penn State Industries. At the time, they were sold as Benjamin's Best. Well, okay, maybe Benjamin isn't that good a tool maker, I don't know. Yeah, the high-speed steel, which it says it is, like this one has that stamp on it too. I'm not sure if that means high-speed steel or something else. Highly suspicious steel, maybe. But yeah, I have to sharpen more. But I couldn't have afforded to do this buying top-of-the-line tools like a One-Ways or Thompson's or any of that. Then this wouldn't happen. So I sharpened for them. Boy, we've got flies in here today. I sharpened for them, and yeah, we use cheaper tools. It's just the way it is. Okay, so those 2. Next is the parting tool. And those are kind of the grade 7, 8, 6, 7, and 8 tools. These 3, the spindle roughing gouge, the spindle gouge, and the parting tool. Okay, that in there. I do have a skew in each lathe, or a small, at least a small skew. This one's a 1-inch, but I haven't taught them a lot with the skew yet. The grade 9s, or grade 9 and up, if they'd want to turn a baseball bat, yeah, then I'd get them on the skew. But often we just use it for cleaning up shoulders on bowls. I know that's probably not a good way to do it, but kids can do it, and it works good if they're gentle with it. And that's one thing I always teach. You never force anything. Everything is smooth and gentle. And I have some amazing turners. The grade 9 girl that I had last semester, wow, was she ever smooth at the lathe. It was fun to watch. Anyway, that moves to our grade 9 tool, which is a bowl gouge. So I guess the skew would be grade 9 and up as well. But the bowl gouge, and again, these are not high quality gouges. So, but they do the job, they work. And if you sharpen them enough, they work well. Another thing that I tried to do, and I haven't been good at getting them put back all the time, are little pieces of vinyl hose to protect the tips. The bad thing about this storage system is the tips are kind of vulnerable. So, and of course this would go in there yet, and it seems to me that I'm missing something else here, but no, I think that's about it. So, yeah. Oh, the other thing is, all the safety rules and everything are right there. So I think these student lathes are set up in a fairly complete manner. In Saskatchewan, replacement parts are hard to find sometimes. I've been ordering belts from a business, an amazing business in Alabama, I think they are. They're wonderful to deal with. I think they're called Belts for Everything or something like that. Amazing to deal with. Bearings I can get because these are all fairly standard bearings. But to get a good price on them, I often end up ordering them on Amazon. And then I try to order extra. Like I have extra switches. I have extra bearings. If it's something that can wear out or break on the lathe, I try to have an extra of it. So that way I can make repairs during the week and we don't lose any downtime. Now, if you've listened carefully to what I've been saying and maybe done some of the math, I have 4 students on one day and 5 students the next. So what that means is I should be able to have 5 lathes in here and accommodate everybody's needs. It doesn't work that way. So every lathe here is a different height. So the first week, or the first time, Tuesday, got everything set for my grade 6s. Said, okay, grade 7s and 8s, I might have to change 1 or 2. Well, we changed a bunch of them again for the grade 7s and 8s because they're taller. And so then I thought, well, I still have 3 lathes in storage. Why don't I just bring them in here? So now I have all 8 in here. And basically I have 1 extra because I have it now so that each kid has their own lathe. So there will be no more height adjustment before we can get started on a date. We'll start turning right away. And that way, I think kids feel that they're getting something for their money. They're getting some value because we can come in, we can turn right away. I try to sharpen everything in advance, but with these tools in a 3-hour class, they're not going to cut well for the whole 3 hours. So I tell my students, and they're not experienced with tools at all. They don't know when the tool is dull or they're just having some problems. So I tell them, when the tool isn't cutting like you think it should, bring it to me. And usually I'll just run it on the grinder a little bit and then everybody's happy and away we go. So I hope that, boy, this kneeling on the floor for a video, that's not the thing to do. I hope that gives you a little bit of an insight how you have to set things up when you're working with kids, working with students. If it's adult students, well, I mean, there's things to set up for them too. Lathe height is one of them. There's all kinds of things you need to do. But I work with kids predominantly, and my whole career has been spent that way. So I've learned a few things about working with kids and making sure that they're set up for success. So I guess with that in mind, yeah, put your experience with working with young kids in the comments. I mean, even if it's turning with your grandkids, like that's important, and you want to do things right with them, because you don't want them, oh, I don't want to go out and grab a shop, I'll get hurt again. You know, you don't want them to say that. You want that shop to be a place where you and that next generation can bond, where they recognize that you have skills and you recognize that they have talent. So with that in mind, that brings this weekly edition to an end. Thank you for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. And I think I'm going to have some news for you. There's going to be something, I think, pretty cool that's going to happen around the 1,000 subscriber mark. So keep watching my videos to find out what that's going to be. But I have to make sure a few things line up before I can announce it. And I think it's going to be cool. So anyway, take care. Have an excellent week. Remember, Thanksgiving next weekend. So make sure you get all those projects done so you can host your family and have an awesome weekend. And my American friends, you'll do it in November. Not a big deal. Okay, take care. We'll see you.